Thank you, Carol and Will. That was excellent. And this is a topic that's very near and dear to many of us, so we could have a longer conversation. Please feel free to just walk out and speak with them about your questions and concerns or suggestions that you might have. I'm here to kick off the very next fireside chat, and very delighted to introduce the next two speakers we have for you. And this is a very exciting topic, investing to impact women's careers. There's a lot being done, and some work that happens in impact investing is really because of a personal mission. And this particular topic, and the next speaker who's coming on board, has really taken this on as a personal mission to create opportunities for women in STEM. And rather than steal her thunder, I would allow her to take the dais and speak with the moderator. So it's my pleasure to introduce Meera Kaul of Meera Kaul Foundation. She is the chairperson of this foundation. And speaking to her would be Tim Harris, who is a leading attorney and a partner at Morrison Foerster. You might know them as MoFo. And without further ado, the stage is all yours. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thanks very much. So you have the more detailed bio in your materials, and I encourage you to take a look at Miras bio. She has a really interesting background as an entrepreneur turned investor who's working to empower women to utilize their economic, social, and intellectual potential. So Meera, I've heard you described as a daredevil entrepreneur in some emerging markets, and that you've even been called into law enforcement, local law enforcement in one of those emerging markets, just for being an entrepreneur. Share that story with us, please.
Yes, I'm terrible, but this is a very interesting story, actually. I've been fortunate enough to have lived part of my career in countries where I've not only lived the length of my life, but also the depth of it. So this was in one of the emerging market countries, and I was called in by the local law enforcement headquarters. And my charge, what they charged me with was, they weren't too sure if a woman entrepreneur could exist, or was a woman allowed to own a company. And I sat there for, I think, 6 hours. And of course, different languages, different cultures. And I think ultimately, by the end of the evening, they were tired of me. And they told me I could go, and they dropped the charges. But it was an awesome experience.
Wow. So tell us a little bit more about the current state of women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math careers, and the gender bias that's at play here, including your opinion as to what the root cause is of this gender gap.
Tim, I believe gender bias is a grave injustice, and I know every woman in this room would feel that too. We are in 2014. And women are still paid non-STEM careers 71 cents to a dollar for doing the same job that men do. I think the reason for gender bias in STEM or non-STEM, and in STEM, by the way, 81 cents to a dollar for the same job that men do. So in terms of the reasons for gender bias, I think these are the reasons for gender bias in STEM are greatly related to gender bias as such. There is huge economic marginalization, and I would talk more about that, and that'll be my term for the entire chat that we have. But apart from economic marginalization, opportunities for political participation, education, access to quality education, on one hand, and then, of course, there are these socioeconomic causes and societal gender role play, which, and then, of course, ratification of that entire gender role play by media. So all these things are extremely, extremely pertinent to how women are treated and how gender bias exists in our societies even today. We're still living in a world where out of the 1.3 billion people under the poverty line, 70% are women.
Interesting. I'm sure it varies market by market, but is the gender gap widening or is the gender gap narrowing? This is obviously a topic that's undergone discussion for a couple generations.
So there was a study done recently by the American Association of University Women. And this study, actually, they ran a survey. And they ran the survey for college-educated men and women for the entire 35 years of their career. And the results of the survey were that women end up earning around $1.3 million less than a man who has had the same college education. Apart from that, if you look at statistics in terms of, I just spoke about the variation in economic marginalization. If we were to just cover that gap of pay scale, women would actually contribute to the US economy and grow the US economy by around 3 to 4%. And now compare it to the $800 billion stimulus that was injected in our economy in 2009. You know how much it grew the economy by? 1.5%. So this is how important women are to the economy. If we would just to increase the participation of women in the workforce from a 76% that exists right now to an 84% as it is in Sweden, we would again grow the US economy by 3 to 4%.
So tell us.
I'm not saying that it's widening. I mean, of course, it's better than what it was in 1960. But the fact of the matter is, and what really infuriates most women in this room, is that it still exists.
You mentioned the media earlier. Tell us what your thoughts about the media treatment of the gender gap and how the media affects the gender gap.
So again, let me quote another study that I was reading about, and I've written on gender bias quite a lot. And this study actually came out with a conclusion that when kids are born, by the time they are 18 months of age, they know exactly what gender they belong to. They know exactly how to behave, what clothes to wear, what to play with, what to use, what not to use, what their aspirations in life are. It is that quick. And by the time most girls are 6 years of age, they already hate math as a subject. So from that perspective, I believe media has a huge ratifying role to play here. Tim, I know you threatened me sitting over there that I should not ask you any questions, but I'm going to throw this one at you. Have you had a Barbie growing up?
No.
Well, I'm so sad to hear that. Well, neither did I. I actually had this doll. It was a male doll. And I think, no offense to anybody in the room, but I called it Sanju. And I remember by the time I was done with it, it didn't have limbs. But there was a Barbie recently that was, I think it was late 90s. This Barbie doll was released by Leo Mattel in the market, and it was a talking Barbie doll, which would say, "Math is tough. Where is the potty?" I was targeted towards girls. "Math is tough. Where is the potty? Who's your crush?" And surprisingly, there was no media furor about this. There was no recall of the doll. It stayed in the market. So if that is what we are not angry about, I don't know why we're even talking about gender bias.
So that's a great segue. Then you can obviously you can hear the passion in Meera's voice about her cause. Tell us a bit about the foundation's investment focus.
So we have a very narrow investment focus. We invest in women who want to pick up careers or want to set up entrepreneurial ventures in STEM. When I said STEM to a lot of people here in the conference, they thought it was stem cells. So let me clarify that science, technology, engineering, and math is what we like to focus on. And even if it is in verticals that are not technology, if they are doing something that is enabled by technology, that's something we would like to look at. Another important aspect of our investment is that we are focusing on women who are able to build communities. That means our investment should have result in a greater community action for these women to become role models in a community. And apart from that, for them to really take the dollar and percolate it down to the masses.
Can you give us an example of one of your investments that you think best exemplifies this impact objective?
So I think the best example is an investment that we did in Cameroon a few months back, and this girl who was part of a contingent of girls that came from Africa to Silicon Valley. She spoke to us about the problems that she was having. She's a teacher in an engineering college. And she realized that when they introduced computer science into the university, 85% of teachers in her university did not know computer science. At that point in time, it was a very shocking statistic to us. But she went back and she sent us a business plan. And she said she wanted to do this, and she started it by bootstrapping it herself, and then she asked us for help. She set up this computer training institute. 65% of the girls being trained in this institute are women. Girls and women. And she's doing extremely well. We are vested with her. And these are the kind of projects which we think will make a greater impact to communities and create real money. Because our focus is to reduce economic marginalization, we will continue to be money-focused. We'll continue to be profit-focused.
Yeah, we heard that in the prior prior chat as well, how important that is. So to the extent there is a typical profile, I'm sure you find your opportunities all over the place, literally all over the world. But in terms of the typical profile of a portfolio investment, what stage of the company, what size of investment, and what industries do you look for?
So since we look at very few women entrepreneurs at this point in time, because we don't have the resources, honestly, because of the way we involve ourselves into these companies. We are deeply driven and we're deeply involved in the businesses. We look at anything that is 10K and above. The maximum investment that we've done so far has been 250K. We have also only involved ourselves in seed stage investments, where we want to make sure that we're handholding the entrepreneur through the process. We make sure that we capacity build them through the best means, and we don't invest unless we have a mentor network close to the investor. So these are a few things that we focus on.
So you must face the same challenges that non-impact investors face when searching for deals that fit their investment thesis or their particular portfolio company profile. Let's talk about deal sourcing, and how and where do you source your deals?
So we've been lucky with the first batch of our entrepreneurs because I was deeply involved with the State Department's Techwomen program. And also I'm on the board of advisors of International Institute of Education. We were lucky to meet and get to know girls that come in through the State Department into the Bay Area from Middle East and Africa, and from emerging markets through University of Phoenix. So these ladies are brought in every year through a backroad diplomacy program at the State Department, and they are trained here with the best companies in the world for 4 weeks. The gap that we saw with this kind of a model was that they would finish their 4 weeks and go back, and then there was nobody to handhold them through what next. And that's where we started. That's where our deal flow came in. That's where we had our first entrepreneurs coming from. And it's been a great experience so far. We are deeply vested with our entrepreneurs. We talk to them on a daily basis. We lead their businesses since we're capacity building. The phase, we normally look at 3 to 5 years. Of a period of engagement, after which we make sure that they're earning money, and the money is the economic marginalization part of our agenda is covered, and that's when we exit.
Good. So that's probably a perfect setup for our last question, to talk about the non-investment activities in support of your investments. Because in addition to all the same portfolio monitoring and managing activities that non-impact investors have, you've undertaken an additional burden of monitoring and managing the impact side of your investments. So tell us how the foundation does this monitoring and the post-investment activities during your level of engagement. How do you ensure that the impact objective is being pursued?
So first and foremost, we do choose our entrepreneurs very carefully. We would not go and invest with anybody. We want to make sure that the entrepreneur is very serious about their objectives. We want to make sure that they're vested as much as we are in the investment. We want to make sure that they really have the need and the agenda to make a change around them. Once we have all these three met, we actually recruit a really good mentoring network. Apart from that, we have business people who volunteer their time to monitor the activities of the investment, and of course, get on board with these investments to make sure we are reaching milestones. If we are not reaching milestones, that's the time it's a red flag for us, and we go back in and try to fix whatever is not fixed at the point in time. And honestly, this is a very focused area. We are cognizant of the challenges that women entrepreneurs might face, especially in emerging markets, and even here in North America. We've had failures. We've had failures with women entrepreneurs deciding that wasn't their cup of tea. We've had failures with women entrepreneurs deciding that, hey, I want to start a family, so let me not pursue this anymore. These are real-life challenges, and we live with that. But at the same time, our job is to make sure that if we have an agenda to make sure that the money percolates down and these ladies become community leaders and they become role models for other women to come forward and do what they're doing, that's the risk we have to take with impact.
Excellent. With that, please join me in thanking Meera Kaul of the Meera Kaul Foundation for joining us today.
Thank you, Tim.